Alright, I got it interrupted. So we put 12 over 1, negative 3x over 4. Now we're going to make an LCD between 1 and 4. That LCD would be 4. So we're just going to multiply this by 4 over 4. That makes 48 over 4 equals negative 3x over 4. Again, now that we have both fractions over 4, we can eliminate the denominators. That leaves us with 48 equals negative 3x. We'll divide by negative 3. And we should get negative 16 as our answer. We don't have calculators, so if you need to divide by hand, you're more than welcome to get that answer correct. Don't guess. Alright, same idea on the next one. We're going to put that m up top, so we'll have 1m over 6 equals 3 over 1. The LCD between 6 and 1 would be 6. And so we'll multiply the one that's not 6 by 6 over 6. That makes 1m is really just m over 6 equals 18 over 6. Now that they're both over 6, I can eliminate the denominator. And that gives me m equals 18. And I'm done. You're getting the hang of this? Go ahead and try the next one. Pause the video if you need to. Again, we're going to put that variable up top, so we'll have 3a over 2 equals negative 9 over 1. Our LCD will be 2. So we're going to multiply the fraction that doesn't have 2 by 2 over 2. That makes 3a over 2 equals negative 18 over 2. Keep the negative up top. Now that the denominators are exactly the same, we can eliminate them. That gives us 3a equals negative 18. Divide by the coefficient, and a equals negative 6. So it's a very similar process every time. We just have to get used to that process. The next one we have negative 2/5 x equals negative 1/3. I'm going to put the negative 2x up top, the 5 on the bottom, equals negative 1 over 3. So you move your negatives to the top and your variables up to the top. We need an LCD this time between 5 and 3, which would be 15. So this one needs to multiply by 3 over 3. This one needs to multiply by 5 over 5. Then I get negative 6x over 15 equals negative 5 over 15. Now that those denominators match, I can eliminate them. Gives me negative 6x equals negative 5. We're going to divide both sides by the coefficient negative 6. We know that a negative divided by a negative is a positive, but 5 doesn't divide by 6. So we just leave our answer as a fraction, 5 over 6. So sometimes your answer will work out to an integer, and sometimes it will be a fraction. Just because you get a fraction doesn't mean you did something wrong. Let's look at the next one. 3 over 14 equals negative 2x. Put all that up top. Over 7. Now we're going to look for an LCD between 14 and 7. That would be 14. So we're going to multiply this one by 2 over 2 to make 14. That would be 3 over 14 equals negative 4x over 14. And then we can eliminate the 14, so we have 3 equals negative 4x. And then you continue solving like we did in chapter 2. Divide by negative 4. You should get x equals negative 3 over 4. So that negative can be out front, it can be on top or bottom, just not both. I just kind of put it out front, and then the fraction 3 over 4. So we'll continue on the back. It's all the same process, so if you're feeling pretty comfortable, you can try those on your own. If not, you can watch me work them out. So the back. These look a little more complicated. We have 18 equals 4 over 5x plus 2. Now we could put them all over 1 and then get our LCD, but because 18 is an integer and 2 is an integer, let's go ahead and move that 2 to the other side. This will make our job easier. So we have 16 over 1 equals 4x over 5. So 18 minus 2 is 16. I'm going to put that over 1. And then I'm going to put the x up with the 4. So 4x over 5. That gets it just a little bit easier to work with. So our LCD would be 5. So we're going to multiply this by 5 over 5. 16 times 5, you might have to just work that one out, is 80. So 80 over 5 equals 4x over 5. Now that the denominators match, we can eliminate them. That's 80 equals 4x. And then the next step is to divide by 4, divide by 4. So the answer you should get is x equals 20. And I'm switching the variable and the constant, which we can do. If you get 20 equals x, that's the same thing. So the next two are the same if you want to pause the video and try those. Again, we notice an integer on one side and an integer on the other. The easiest thing to do is to move that integer to the other side and put the h up top with the 1. So we have 1h over 4 equals 6 over 1. So we're kind of clean everything up, condense what we can. So 1h over 4 equals 6 over 1. Then we need an LCD between 4 and 1, which would be 4. So we're going to multiply this by 4 over 4, so we get h over 4 equals 24 over 4. Now that the denominators match, we can eliminate them. We get h equals 24. Not too bad on that one. The next one, same idea. Find that equal sign. We have a plus 4 on the left and a minus 8 on the right. So what we can do is move that 4 to the other side. And I'm also going to move the r up top. So 4r over 3 equals negative 12 over 1. You can use keep, change to get negative 12. Put it over 1. Now we need our LCD between 3 and 1. That would be 3. So we just have to multiply this one by 3 over 3. That makes 4r over 3 equals negative 36 over 3. And we can eliminate the matching denominators. We get 4r equals negative 36, and then divide by 4. Should get r equals negative 9. So we want to be comfortable with our solving steps once we eliminate the denominator, and then it's usually a relatively simple solving from there. Alright, the next one is a little different. We have 4y plus 1/3 equals 7/9. So our first step, remember, is to make everything a fraction. So I'm going to put the 4y over 1. Kind of helps to rewrite that. Give it a little bit of space between each term so you can have some space to make common denominators. So 4y over 1 plus 1 over 3 equals 7 over 9. Now we need an LCD between 1, 3, and 9. And that LCD would be 9. So this term has to multiply by 9 over 9. That way the denominator's 9. This term needs to multiply by 3 over 3. Again, so that the denominator's 9. This denominator is already 9, so we don't have to do anything to that one. So multiply top times top. That makes 36y over 9 plus 3 over 9 equals 7 over 9. And now that we have all those denominators matching, we can eliminate them. I'm running myself out of room. I'm going to get a scrap sheet of paper here to not cram up the space. Remember, if you write too big, you can always jump to a scratch sheet of paper. So what we have now is 36y plus 3 equals 7. Just the numerators. Now we're going to solve. Here's our equal sign. We're going to move that constant to the other side. That makes 36y equals 4. And our next step is to divide by 36. So that doesn't divide nicely, so it's 4 over 36. And we can write that in lowest terms by dividing the top by 4 and the bottom by 4. That makes 1 over 9. So the answer is y equals 1 over 9. You always want to write your answers in lowest terms every time. So that's as complicated as the problem gets when you have 3 terms. You have to get an LCD between all 3 terms and then solve from there. So the next one is the same idea. If you want to try it on your own, we have 3x. We're going to put the 3x over 1 plus 1 over 2 equals 3 over 4. It helps to kind of space them out a little bit side to side so you can see everything. We have a 1, a 2, and a 4. So the LCD would be 4. From there, we're going to make all the denominators match. So we're going to multiply this one 4 over 4 to make the denominator of 4. Multiply this one by 2 over 2 to make the denominator 4. And this one already has a denominator of 4. And we're going to clean that up. That gives us 12x over 4 plus 2 over 4 equals 3 over 4. And again, I'm going to jump down to my scratch paper so I don't cram my work up. Now we can eliminate those denominators. So that gives me 12x plus 2 equals 3. Use our solving skills from chapter 2. We're going to move that 2 to the other side. That gives us 12x equals 1. Divide by 12 on both sides, and x equals 1 over 12. We'll just leave it like that. So remember, sometimes you're going to get a fraction, and that's okay. You'd like to try the next one on your own? We have 3 over 10 equals negative 4b minus 1 over 5. So that's 3 over 10 equals negative 4b over 1 minus 1 over 5. Now we need an LCD between 10, 1, and 5. That would be 10. So 3 over 10, we don't have to do anything. This one we're going to have to multiply by 10 over 10, and this one we'll need to multiply by 2 over 2. So we clean that up. We get 3 over 10. Negative 4b times 10 is negative 40b over 10 minus 2 times 1 is 2 over 10. So we'll carefully work through that. Now that they're all over 10, we can eliminate the denominator. It gives us 3 equals negative 40b minus 2. And then we'll use our solving skills from there. Add 2 to both sides. That gives us 5 equals negative 40b. And divide by negative 40. We should get b equals 5 over 40 with a negative out front. We can reduce that by dividing both by 5. That gives us negative 1 over 8. So b equals negative 1 over 8. So we're using our solving skills from chapter 2. Alright, the next set looks a little different as well. We've got a little more complicated numerator, but it's still a fraction, k minus 10 all over 2 equals negative 7 over 1. Same idea, k minus 10 over 2, negative 7, we're going to put it over 1. The LCD between 2 and 1 is 2. So we don't have to mess with this one, it's already over 2. We're going to multiply this one by 2 over 2. That makes k minus 10 over 2 equals negative 14 over 2. Because they're both over 2, we can eliminate the denominator. I think I have enough space. K minus 10 equals negative 14. And then from there, we're trying to solve for k. So we're just going to add 10 to both sides. K equals negative 4. If this is making sense, again, you can try any that you'd like. Just pause the video and give them a try. And I'll keep working out the rest. We have n minus 5 over 2 equals 5 over 1. LCD again between 2 and 1 would be 2. So we're going to multiply this fraction by 2 over 2. That gives me n minus 5 over 2 equals 10 over 2. Ignore the denominator now, or eliminate it. N minus 5 equals 10. And from there, all we have to do is add 5 to both sides. And n equals 15. So it's a little bit of work up front, making everything a fraction, finding the LCD, giving them all common denominators. But once you eliminate that denominator, the solving part is not so bad. So here we have 9 plus m over 3 equals 2 over 1. The LCD there would be 3. So we're going to multiply this guy by 3 over 3. 9 plus m over 3 equals 6 over 3. Eliminate the denominator. 9 plus m equals 6. Subtract 9 from both sides, and m equals negative 3. Again, you can do keep, change, change to help you out. Alright, the last 3. Again, not too bad. The last one's a little tricky with the negative, but we'll talk about that one when we get there. Let me fold this down so you can see everything. So same idea here. We have negative 12 plus x over 11 equals negative 3. We're going to put that over 1. We're going to give everybody the same denominator, so the LCD between 11 and 1 would be 11. So we multiply this guy by 11 over 11. That makes negative 12 plus x over 11 equals negative 33 over 11. As you get used to this, you can eliminate right there. If you're getting used to this, you don't even have to write it down here because we keep crossing it right back off. So from here, once you know that you're going to make that common denominator, you can go ahead and eliminate right there and jump straight to negative 12 plus x equals negative 33. And then we'll add 12 to both sides. Negative 33 plus 12 is going to be negative 21. And again, you just have to know you're adding and subtracting. Next one. Negative 4 plus x over 2 equals 6 over 1. The LCD would be 2. So we're going to multiply this one by 2 over 2. As soon as you do that, you know that these denominators are going to match. And so right from there, you can cross off the bottoms. That gives you negative 4 plus x equals 6 times 2, which is 12. So that saves you a little bit of space. And then we add 4 to both sides, and x equals 16. And last but not least, this one's kind of weird. It's got the negative on the bottom. And we usually say, it's easier to say that the negative goes on the top. So what we're going to do, this is a little strange, we're going to multiply this whole thing by -1 over -1. And we're going to distribute in this -1. So it's going to be negative p minus 8. So it's going to change the signs on there. But then this will be over -1 times +2 is +2, which is what we want. So we're really just moving the negative to the top, but you have to do that very carefully. So it's going to be negative p minus 8 over +2 equals 10 over 1. And then our LCD will be 2. It's between 2 and 1. Multiply this guy by 2 over 2. And again, once you know you're going to make that common denominator, you can eliminate right there just to save you a little bit of space. From there you have negative p minus 8 equals 20. Then we'll add 8 to both sides. You get negative p equals 28. And from there we need to divide by -1. You get positive p equals negative 28. Alright, so solving with fractions, there's a lot of ways to solve with fractions, and I've taught it a lot of different ways, and over the semesters I have found this method to be the best. It's a little bit of work up front to clean it up, but then once you get to eliminate the denominators, the solving steps are pretty simple. So if you've learned a different technique, that's totally fine. The book teaches a very different technique. So if you click on view an example in the homework, it's going to be really confusing. So try to stick to this method for all fraction solving. And again, that method is to make all terms fractions by putting them over 1. Make them have common denominators using the LCD. Then my favorite step, eliminate the denominators and solve like chapter 2. I have found this method to be the best across the board, and it will carry you all the way through college algebra with a consistent method to solve with fractions.